Nepal is a country located in South Asia. Nepal's population is almost 30 million people, and like many developing countries in the world, it is facing rapid urbanization with migration from the rural areas. The capital of Nepal is Kathmandu, which was once dominated with farmlands. However, in recent years, due to the migration from other parts of the country, this once fertile valley has seen haphazard development of buildings and other structures at the expense of farmland. Land prices have seen a steep increase, making it more lucrative for farmers to sell land at high prices than to cultivate crops. Those who continue to farm see little value in growing traditional grain crops such as rice, wheat, and corn, and instead are seeking opportunities for growing high-value specialty crops like vegetables. A practice that has seen a rapid increase in growing high-value specialty crops like vegetables is in improvised greenhouse-like hoophouse structures, known locally as tunnel farming. Today we visit with a prominent specialty crop farmer who carries out his operation in so-called tunnel farming structures.
My name is Santosh
Bogati, and I'm from the Miagdi district in western Nepal. I've been running this operation since the last 6 years. The operation you see here is called off-season farming, where we produce vegetables during the rainy monsoon season. We construct these primitive plastic hoop houses made from local products. We try to emulate the high-tech tunnel farming of other developed countries to prevent rain damage to the crops. Vegetable crops are highly susceptible to fungal diseases during the monsoon, and we try to protect them using this technology. In the winter, it is not possible to use this technology as it gets too cold, and frost damage is another problem. However, we're able to grow vegetables using these structures for about 4 to 6 months in a year. We grow tomato seedlings in these trays. Then we transplant the tomato seedlings in beds that are mulched. The reason we use mulch is that it maintains soil moisture by preventing evaporation, and it also helps in preventing the volatilization of fertilizers. It also reduces weed pressure, thus reducing labor costs for weeding. Most of our crops you see here are transplanted. First, we prepare the beds and make a shallow trench where we put organic manure, chemical fertilizers, both macro and micronutrients. We put enough manure and nutrients to feed the crop for about 3 months. Then we cover the trench with soil and lay down drip tapes for irrigation. We then transplant the seedlings. The main problems in this type of farming here in Kathmandu is the availability of water for irrigation and market. To address water shortage issues, we primarily use drip irrigation, which helps in using water more efficiently. Although we use these plastic structures to prevent fungal diseases, we still have to face fungal attacks on the plants, as you can see here. The primary diseases in these tomatoes are late and early blight, and we have to control these diseases using fungicides. We have to be careful with pesticide applications as we are surrounded by residential areas, and they are very concerned when they see and hear power sprayers in operation. We do not rely completely on pesticides. We also use integrated pest management practices. For example, here is a trap for managing a very damaging insect in tomatoes called Tuta absoluta. The trap that I am showing here has a pheromone that lures the male insects and they drown in the water. Here is a trap that is full of Tuta absoluta males that were lured into the traps and they have drowned and died. In the process, the females are unable to mate with males and thus unable to lay eggs. As for the weeds, as you can see here, when I was rearing cattle, I used to harvest these weeds and feed them to the animals. Of late, I've stopped raising cattle, and now I have to rely on herbicides to control these weeds. Along with tomatoes, we also grow long beans in these structures. Long beans do not need as much fertilizers as tomatoes, but we use a similar practice by first making the trench and applying the fertilizers in the trench. Unlike tomatoes, we plant seeds of long beans 25 centimeters apart in a row. Long beans are direct seeded and not transplanted. We then train the vines of the beans on these long strings as you see here. Unlike tomatoes, we do not have many disease problems, but we have more insect problems because of the dense canopy. Sometimes we see nutrient deficiency, and to address that, we spray micronutrients. The yellowing of leaves you see here is probably due to sulfur deficiency. Here you see beans affected by insects. The alternative pest control methods are not sufficient to prevent this, so we have to rely on synthetic and organic insecticides. In recent years, tomatoes are the only crop that is exported from Kathmandu. Every other crop is imported into Kathmandu. Here is how I make foliar applications of chemicals. I mix the nutrients in this drum and spray them through the pipes with the help of a pump. I also store my pesticides here. This is an example of a bi-pesticide to control tuta. I prefer this insecticide as it has a very short pre-harvest interval of 2 days. Here is another bi-pesticide called DataGuard that I use because it has a short pre-harvest interval. We try to use safety measures while spraying pesticides. As you can see, we have masks, eye protection, gloves, spray suits, boots, etc. Although we prefer to go organic, pest pressure has not made this possible, and we do have to rely on synthetic pesticides. The major problem I'm facing in recent years is a lack of labor. I think the main reason is not many people want to work in the farm because farming is a difficult job. The new generation particularly doesn't seem to be interested in farming and doing hard physical labor. However, these youth go overseas and learn how difficult it is to earn a living there. They seem to return with more willingness to do physical labor in their own country. We harvest these crops manually, multiple times a year. Per plant, we can only get up to 10 to 12 kilograms of tomatoes during a growing season. We only sell these tomatoes as fresh market products because we do not have the processing technologies for tomatoes, although that is changing gradually. A total net income for this 8 acres of land is about 2 to 3 million rupees, which is equivalent to $20,000 to $30,000 per year. That's because I reduce my labor costs by doing most of the work myself. The net income can vary from year to year based on labor and land rental costs, both of which are increasing every year. Agriculture is a very honorable profession, but be prepared to work hard and have a lot of patience.